10 WWE matches that were never supposed to happen. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Number 10. The Undertaker vs Kane, SummerSlam 2000. Fans may recall when WWE randomly booked Kane to turn on The Undertaker in the summer of 2000. This turn came completely out of nowhere as Kane and the Dead Man had to settle their rivalry in the years prior, and there was no clear indication that the two were going to feud once again. WWE would proceed to book a match between the two at the annual SummerSlam event, and interestingly, this was a match that was never supposed to occur. Initially, WWE were going to book the Dead Man versus the Big Show for the summer spectacle. However, due to Big Show being sent to OVW, WWE needed a replacement, and an improvised Kane heel turn was the best thing that they could come up with. Number 9. Goldberg vs Braun Strowman, WrestleMania 36. When the global pandemic of 2020 forced the WWE to change the way they operated, they were without a universal title match for WrestleMania 36. Number 1 contender Roman Reigns took a leave of absence from WWE due to health concerns, meaning his planned match with Goldberg was cancelled. WWE didn't have time to build up a new rivalry for Goldberg, so they simply announced Braun Strowman as the new number 1 contender on the weekend of the show. This was incredibly lazy from WWE, as little to no thought was put into what fans at home may have wanted to see. Fans were throwing names around including AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy and even Sheamus, yet Strowman being Reigns' replacement was certainly a questionable call. Now Strowman would go on to win the lackluster match, giving the former White family member his first and only world title victory in WWE. Number 8. The Big Show vs The Undertaker, Great American Bash 2006. The 2006 Great American Bash pay-per-view was supposed to see the debut of the Punjabi Prison match. The structure would have seen The Undertaker and the Great Khali finally finish their rivalry, yet the match was never able to take place as Khali was pulled out at the last minute. It turned out that Khali had elevated levels of enzymes in his liver, so he was unable to compete. Fans weren't that upset, however, as the Big Show and the Dead Man had wrestled hundreds of times in the past and they had decent chemistry in the ring. The match concept was a bizarre one, and it was one of those match types that fans either love or hate. The Undertaker would get the win, and the consensus following the match was that the match would have been a total car crash if Khali was involved. Number 7. Dean Ambrose vs Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 32. A rivalry between Bray Wyatt and Brock Lesnar started in early 2016, and it was common knowledge amongst the fanbase that the WWE were going to book Wyatt vs Lesnar for WrestleMania 32. However, following the 2016 Fastlane event, WWE went in a completely different direction. Out of nowhere, they would move forward with the Lesnar vs Dean Ambrose feud, and it was heavily believed that Wyatt wasn't going to be cleared to compete in time for WrestleMania. Fast forward to 2023 and WWE once again had planned Lesnar vs Wyatt to take place at WrestleMania. However, it was widely reported that Lesnar wasn't a fan of the match idea, so he turned the idea down. Instead, Lesnar got to have a showdown with Omos in a match that exceeded everyone's expectations. Number 6. John Cena vs Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 23. The main event of WrestleMania 23 saw John Cena defend his WWE title against Shawn Michaels. This classic match initially wasn't on the table, and in January 2007, WWE were forced to drastically amend their WrestleMania match card. When Triple H tore his quad at the start of the calendar year, this changed everything. The game was going to face Cena in a WrestleMania 22 rematch, and WWE were going to begin the build to the feud just a matter of days after the game had suffered his career-threatening injury. They had to think of a backup plan, and their solution was to insert HBK into Triple H's spot. In relation to what HBK was initially supposed to do at WrestleMania 23, it's widely believed that he was going to represent Donald Trump in the Battle of the Billionaires, and due to HBK moving into the main event slot, he would be replaced by Bobby Lashley. Number 5. Daniel Bryan vs Kofi Kingston, WrestleMania 35. Kofi Mania was a complete accident, and if Mustafa Ali hadn't suffered an injury, then Kofi Kingston's WWE title win would have never taken place. Kingston will replace Ali in the 2019 Elimination Chamber, and Kingston's babyface aura was on full display in the chamber, and this was the specific match that the fans firmly decided that Kingston was now their number 1 guy. Due to this overwhelmingly positive response, WWE decided to cancel their WrestleMania match for the WWE Champion Daniel Bryan. According to WWE producer Shawn during an appearance on the Two-Man Power Trip podcast, the original match set for WrestleMania 35 was to see Bryan defend his title against Kevin Owens. The crazy thing is that before WWE changed the WWE title match for WrestleMania, Kingston wasn't even set to be on the WrestleMania card in any capacity. Speaking about this on After the Bell, Kingston revealed that Bryan was heavily involved in pushing him to get the spot on the grandest stage. Number 4, Big E vs Kevin Owens vs Bobby Lashley vs Seth Rollins vs Brock Lesnar, Day 1. WWE's plans to host a pay-per-view event on New Year's Day in 2022 was put into jeopardy when on the weekend of the show, reigning Universal Champion Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID-19. Reigns was set to main event the show against Brock Lesnar, and now WWE without a main event. Their backup plan was a smart one, as Lesnar would be inserted into a title match which was to feature WWE Champion Big E, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins. In a bold move, WWE would book Lesnar to win the match, and this received criticism as Big E was just finding his groove as reigning champion. Reigns testing positive for COVID on the weekend of the show changed the entire trajectory of WWE. It was reported that initial plans called for Rollins to win the WWE title in the planned Fatal 4-Way match, whereas Lesnar was going to conquer Reigns and become Universal Champion. But due to Reigns testing positive, WWE have moved the Reigns vs Lesnar encounter to WrestleMania 38 in a winner-takes-all matchup, whereas Rollins would now face a returning Cody Rhodes. Number 3, Triple H vs CM Punk, Night of Champions 2011. Coming out of the 2011 SummerSlam event, WWE would move forward with the rivalry between Punk and Kevin Nash. This was designed to lead to a match between the two at Night of Champions, yet due to Nash not being cleared to compete, the match was scrapped. WWE needed to have Punk on the card, so they executed a plot twist which saw Triple H take Nash's place in the match, and Punk and the Game would go on to headline the pay-per-view. In one of the more controversial booking decisions of the past 2 decades, they would book Triple H to win. This decision made little to no sense, as the Game was semi-retired and Punk was on his way to becoming the most popular babyface in the entire company. This was a decision which Punk would hold against the WWE for years to come, as he along with the fans knew that Triple H shouldn't have won the match. Number 2, Randy Orton vs Batista vs Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 30. A CM Punk walking out of WWE in 2014 changed everything. Punk was said to be a major part of WrestleMania 30, and with Punk now gone, WWE had to think of an alternative creative decision. Punk was initially set to face Triple H at a grudge match, and Punk had a rather negative response to the idea of wrestling Triple H on the grander stage. Punk's departure also aligned with the rise of Daniel Bryan, as Bryan had emerged as the audience's chosen guy, and they were insistent on seeing Bryan get his moment at WrestleMania 30. Due to these 2 factors, 2 WrestleMania matches would be changed. Triple H vs Punk was obviously cancelled, and instead Triple H would now face Bryan. The winner of this match would then be added to the scheduled main event world title match between Randy Orton and Batista. And number 1, Roman Reigns vs Edge vs Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania 37. When Daniel Bryan was added to the main event of WrestleMania 30, WWE had to be convinced that Bryan was the right guy to main event the show. WWE, specifically Vince McMahon, didn't see Bryan as a top-tier main eventer in 2014, and they would do anything to try and diminish his popularity. However, by the time WWE arrived at WrestleMania 37 in 2021, McMahon had built up such a positive connection with Bryan that he forcibly changed the planned WrestleMania main event to include him. The planned main event was initially set up to be Royal Rumble winner Edge challenging Roman Reigns for the Universal title. However, McMahon clearly wasn't blown away by the standard match between Edge and Reigns headlining the biggest show of the year, so he made the call to add Bryan into the mix. But there you have it folks, 10 WWE matches that were never supposed to happen. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.